Hi, this is Pastor Deborah Curry here with Repairers of the Breach Broadcast Podcast. We praise God that you're taking the time to listen to me, and I pray that the words that I give you or the host words that come before you would enlighten, enhance, anoint everything God can allow for you to have. I pray that you receive.
Welcome to the Repairs of the Breach Podcast. Tonight I will be your co-host, and Mr. Adolfo will be your host tonight. We'll be having a continuation of the toxic masculinity.
So, unfortunately, we didn't get to finish that topic. I was rather enjoying that, and Dr. Love will be here whenever he's done completing his ordeals. But he brought up some very valid points, because my point initially was, how do we identify what toxic masculinity is in our community? And one point that he pointed out is that a lot of the times we don't know our history. We don't know where we come from. We don't take into consideration what we as a people have been through. And without really truly knowing our history or having experienced it, we're not able to really know what toxic is or to see ourselves as toxic. So,
Absolutely.
right. So one thing I would like to expound upon today is absolutely the man of the hour.
Greetings.
Come on,
How are
brother.
you?
Hey, how's everyone?
Fantastic.
doing
How
great.
you doing, Dr. Lawyer?
Oh, fantastic, man. Glad to be here.
Great.
So I was just saying how you brought up the immaculate point that if we don't know our history, we have no true way of knowing what toxic is or expounding upon it or being to identify it and things of that level of magnitude. So I was just curious what more you had to share with us on that topic, because I was learning from you. You definitely caught my interest, especially with things that the point that you made, the concept of we never really left the plantation. And that's just a sign that someone like me, I didn't realize that. I had no way of understanding that initially, and that's something that can help other people who need to think outside of the box to further identify these toxic traits or the lack of understanding or not having an open mind. A lot of us are taught and programmed to think a certain way, so we have tunnel vision, and that keeps us away from the broader spectrum of things and ideologies. So, wondering what else you had to share with us. Definitely curious. I love to learn. I love to listen.
Well, I'm glad to be here. How you doing, Dr. Buttle?
I'm doing great, Dr.
Take
Lawyer.
off my cool daddy shades. Hello, America. That's a great subject. The subject is toxic male. And you said that you realized as a child, you were growing up, and you heard about slavery as if it was something happened long ago. Correct?
Correct.
Well, I did too. Did you?
Absolutely.
Well, what did you think about it?
What I thought about it, to be honest, I was thinking during the civil rights movement that we had made progress.
Civil
we
rights
had-
movement. You. Well, how old were you at the civil rights?
During the civil rights movement, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Second and
Okay.
third
Well,
grade.
I'm saying I born in '62,
You
and
were
so
born
apparently at 5 years old, at that time, it's traditional in America for a child to start kindergarten. There was no preschool. Correct?
Correct.
So from 2 to 5, that's 7, 1967. And then in the first grade, meaning I passed kindergarten, went to the first grade, my school became integrated, Telfair County Elementary School, where they had European American children and African American children became integrated. It was no longer segregated. So I enjoyed 1 year of segregation, and then the next year was integration. So I was only 5 and 6. So at that time, I didn't know anything about being segregated. And then because of integration, I began to hear during that first year was name calling. And the name that I heard called was the name I heard grown-ups use in the community. And European children responded, and I'm sure the name they heard growing up from adults in their community. And for about the first 30 to 60 days, there were fights in the restroom and on the playground, and name calling. That went on for a year or two. And then after that, we got along fine because eventually we were just kids. We weren't born prejudiced. It was something we had inherited. That's what I'm trying to bring up. So I inherited ignorance. And some people doesn't like me to say, Dr. Badu don't like me to say that I was raised by an ignorant mother. And that means, so when I look up the word ignorance, it means a person that's not aware, don't know. They don't have any awareness about a certain thing. And so my mother then must have been raised ignorant. So as we go back, we have more ignorance until we reach these two fathers, one European, one African. They made an agreement. I like to use there was an agreement because we have choices. You know, either I can accept your proposal or I can deny your proposal, even if you threaten to kill me, right? We know some people accepted death. And then in American history, there's a quote by a famous founding father who said, "Give me liberty or give me death." So everyone has that choice. So because you and I and all of us are sitting here today, my father accepted to pick cotton, which means he accepted to do the labor. And the European father accepted to keep the books, do all the administrative work. And that relationship developed for 400 years. And then when I was born into that relationship, you understand? By this time, the two original people who formed the agreement had died. And for some reason, the agreement kept perpetuating itself over and over and over, year after year after year, until you and I was born. It was running on what we call automatic. And so when I was born, my mom conditioned me to do labor, to grow up and work in a position of labor.
Lack of administration.
Yeah, lack of administration, meaning that someone keeps my bank account, someone keeps my mortgage, someone negotiate what's my value for what I should get paid by the hour. Someone always got a figure of what my worth is worth.
Including your bonus.
Including my bonus, my retirement, everything. Life insurance, the whole thing. It's all figured out. There was an article, just to share, sad to say this article, some of you might remember this article, but it said, European woman is worth $45,000, something like that. And African American woman is worth $25. I don't know how you get to that number, but I do know when cocaine came to the African American community relentlessly off the chain in 1983, I saw the African American woman value go down to $5. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. Were you around at that time?
No.
Okay. So
That's part of it.
I was born, and someone told me what to do and how to behave and things like that. I was just get in where you fit in. I didn't know that I didn't know.
That's still part of the family.
Well, he was getting at slavery,
Right.
toxic male.
It comes from, it takes both sides of the family. It takes the European American and the African American.
Yeah, we are the original American family. We displaced the Native American. He and his queen decided they didn't want to have nothing to do with assimilating European culture. So if they could not live the way they had been living with the great mother in nature, they didn't have any concept of land ownership. They didn't have any concept that they owned anything. There wasn't any borders. Hey, it feels good in Florida. Pack up the TP. We going to Florida. They moved around, nomadic. The European came and said, who owned the land? I said, what are you talking about, man? Nobody owns the land. So
the Europeans say, well,
Hey.
show me your deed.
all I know is today there's a deed in my name and I pay taxes. That's the truth.
In order to
So
travel.
apparently, the European father did not, even though he left England with his concept of city, county, and state, when he got here, he did not want to assimilate the philosophy and culture of the indigenous.
Manifest destiny. He wanted to take it all. And he did, essentially.
Yes. I think we got to apply greed in there or something.
Well, it was an abundance of wealth. It was abundance of land, abundance of nature, from the rivers to the lakes. And it was first come, first stake. But like you said, they was lost also. They didn't want-
If
they
we're
didn't
on the
want to
subject of toxic,
They was
then
toxic
let's say
also.
then that
Very.
the European father brought the original toxicity
Right.
Absolutely.
to the table.
Absolutely.
And then slavery introduced me into the toxicity. And I accepted to play along with it. Unlike the Native American, I did not choose to go out in violence. I surrendered, accepted the agreement to do the labor. So today my children has inherited the position of doing labor. It came out during the pandemic. African American family had to go back out on the front line to the now essential jobs of restaurant worker and all other kind of sanitation worker. And we need to get down to hospitals. They're the African doing the floor, in
The
the dentist
janitors.
office, in the school. And we have a newcomer, the Latino family. They've assumed a lot of the jobs that derived through slavery.
Working the fields, picking the tomatoes.
Yeah, the agriculture and
Right.
the cleaning. And then now the labor with the building of all the homes and buildings and things like that. The
Landscaping.
concrete, landscaping, yes.
Drywall.
Yeah. All the original plantation jobs. So every job or the economics of the world now mimics America. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Everybody mimic America, right?
Absolutely. We're supposed to be the pinnacle.
The pinnacle of economic power.
Right. Capitalism, essentially.
Capitalism, essentially. And China is doing a good job in mimicking us and
Absolutely.
growing their wealth, right?
Well, they're
Absolutely.
wearing the three-piece suits now.
Yeah.
And they just became accused of slavery. Picking cotton, is it?
Yeah.
Isn't that true?
That's true.
Just a week ago?
But I mean, but I feel as though with China becoming more of a capitalist country, the things that they're doing are being ousted. Because what people don't realize is that they're like, well, how does China come into power so quickly? People don't realize it's because the U.S., we're so focused on our profit and not doing and building things domestically being here on U.S. soil, for anybody who didn't know. We were outsourcing our tennis shoes. We were outsourcing our toys. We were outsourcing our, not necessarily raw material.
Parts,
Exactly. So with that
all
being
the
said,
IT.
look at anything in your house, and I guarantee you'll more than likely find 10 things that say made in China.
If you can pronounce the name.
With that being said, it's like people don't realize that's how they came to power. They utilize being the assembler. They utilize these sweatshops and these, I wouldn't necessarily say slave labor. They get paid so little to nothing. That's how China has come to power. China has dealt with things like real estate bubbles. I believe that happened maybe like 2012, 2013, where they were selling things for ludicrous prices. This has been going on. It's just that China is starting to reach a point where we're looking at them as a capitalist country, and that's why it's coming to the forefront today. This has been happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, the toxicity has been there also. I remember when you used to laugh at made in China. You know, you crack up laughing about it. Oh, it's made in China.
Oh, wow.
And I also remember when...
Well, I never remember anything in the house made in Africa.
And that's where the most of the world's natural resources have come from. And that's why during the European occupation, every European country was there. From Portugal to France
Italy,
to England,
Rome.
like that's prior to that's the original occupation. That's the Rome's wanting to trade and wanting to take over. But you had forces like the Mali Empire standing in their way. You know, Egypt. You had that going on. I was focused more on like, what was that, like 1920, 30? What was that? I can't remember the exact year, but when Europe just wanted to have their way with Africa. Let me look that up.
Europeans owned every part of
They
the
trademark.
continent of Africa except.
People don't realize that the
if I'm
blood
correct,
diamond
I
conflict is
think-
still going on. That hasn't stopped.
Somalia is the only one they didn't.
Sierra Leone and those countries are still dealing with these blood diamond conflicts, and we don't acknowledge that. The world,
Wow.
that is completely under the rug. People don't realize that Yemen was in war. You know what I mean? You look over there, those Middle Eastern countries, they're dealing with bombings, they're dealing with
Well,
wars.
Syria is, 10 years.
Kurdistan, you're looking at them fighting for their own land and their own stake in the world.
And
All this
civil
is
war.
going on.
Now they have a civil war going on.
And all this is going on, and we're focused on COVID. There's thousands of people dying for raw materials, for
Water.
water, for oil. They're dying every single day because they're fighting against their occupiers or the people that want their monetary value in their country, which is their resources.
It's the same. The people that own the land has the power. The people that own the land has the power. The people that has the power make the laws. So the toxicity, it expands from slavery through Western culture. If you look at Dallas, Bonanza, right, whoever owned the land, because you had to own the timber, and you had to have the cattle, and you had to feed the cattle, you had to water the cattle, So they had a stronghold.
1914, I was close. With 1920, I was close. I took it too far with 1950, but that's what it was. Originally between 1881 and 1914 was the scramble for Africa, or partition of Africa. So just to fact check that. But not to go too much into the history, I think we have gone in depth with the history. Even though you can never go too in depth, there's never enough history to understand, to really get a better understanding of ourselves and how we operate and how we think, etc. But what I wanted to get more into now is, how can we change these things? We got a bit of an understanding of why it is, but what can we do to further change it? Because we live in this age where this is power. You know what I mean? Robin Hood and people trading stocks. How many times have you gone on the internet and seen a forex trader? Have you seen somebody, trading stocks? Have you seen people who are entrepreneurs? I got a couple buddies who own clothing lines. I got a friend of mine, Ashanti Anglin. She does women's self-defense. Different tools, tasers, stuff like that. I feel like we're in an age where our influence is more prominent. It's more important. We're more important. Our voices are more important. There's still a lot of injustice going on. There's still a lot of things in which we're being suppressed. But I feel like it's growing harder as the world becomes more connected and as the internet connects us. So what are things like I know you mentioned before, taking pride in your community, changing that stigma. At the end of the day, positivity can spread like negativity. The same way me being negative to you can make you upset is the same way me being positive to you can possibly make your day better. You know what I mean? A lot of the times we don't realize what each other go through. We're not always the most compassionate. I don't know what's going on with you or what you guys don't know what I have going on. I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, one thing that we can start doing to change the stigma, like you said, cleaning up your community, is just simply being kind to one another or not doing anything to harm one another. So what are some other things that you guys wanted to expound upon that could further change these negative stigmas?
Well, my thing is starting with self.
Absolutely.
Starting with the I.
Absolutely.
Instead of they,
Absolutely.
him, her, and changing the language, because the language is a toxic language. It's a bitter language. Whenever you say you ought to, you need to, you better, that creates a war.
Righteous.
That's a fight just by the
Righteous.
language. Change the language, because the language is everything. Like I was telling Dr. Loyer, sometimes we can lighten up on the language. Instead of hate, we can use the word dislike, because hate is a powerful, powerful, powerful word.
Loathe,
And
detest.
it brings a lot of pain. And like you said, a lot of us are walking around in pain. A lot of us are hurt right now. And hurt does what?
Creates that toxic, that negative energy.
Hurt people hurt people. That's what hurt people do. Hurt people hurt people. Hurt hurts. And pain has no volume. Whether it's an ounce or a pound, pain is pain. Hurt is hurt. Nobody wants to feel pain. You look around and you can see people every day. You can see who's hungry, who's not. I mean, you can see the truth. You can see who in pain and who's not in pain. You know the difference between a real smile and a fake smile. There used to be a time when my grandmother could just look at you from head to toe. That told her everything she needed to know. Just looking at you from head to toe. What was on your feet, what was on your hand, what was on your back, and what was around your neck. And to top it off, your hairdo. Your hairdo speaks volume. It speaks volume. When you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day. But your hair, it speaks volume. And I was taught that by my grandmother. If we can change the language, the way we speak to people, because if I say, well, hey, that white man there, or that black man there, that's already racism. Because we are not a color. People are not a color. People are humans. You are a noun. You're not a thing. You're not a color. That's why they adapted the Asian American, African American, European American, because it gave you a purpose and a place that you derive from. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not from Africa, I'm not from here, I'm not from there. You are who you are. You can't hide who you are. You can't. Whereas there hot, heated weather, you have to have a large nose so you can breathe in a lot of fresh air, to cool your body down. So your complexion tells you your geography, where you come from, whether you accept it or not. And a lot of us, toxic is deep. It's very deep. Because a lot of us, we want to look a certain way. We want to look wealthy. So we spend most of our time, most of our hours trying to look wealthy. But everybody know where you go home to. No matter what you drive, no matter what you eat or what you display, people know where you live. They know where you live. And like I said, we can just turn the volume down just a little bit, turn the love up just a little bit. And I remember my grandmother always used to tell me, you know, always be in good manner. She always used to say that. I didn't understand what it meant. So I had to ask my older sister. She was talking about respect. Respect will take you a long way. You can be damaged. You can be deeply damaged. But respect, regardless of what you go through, regardless of how you live, regardless of what's coming at you, respect can take you a long way, and it can change you. It can change your life. A lot of people speak on game changing. Oh, he a game changer. She's a game changer. When I look at people as a life changer. You know, who life have you changed today? What have you done positive today? You know, my feelings are, which feelings are not real. You know, I can say, hey, I feel like it's raining outside. Or I feel like it's 10 o'clock. If I look at my watch, I know. So let's take away the feelings. Let's deal with the facts. But what you think, Dr. Loyan?
I'm searching for those answers myself, and so what I decided to do was go backwards more and more and more. And I searched for the gender war, when males cast war against sisters. Once upon a time, someone used to use the word goddess. There were goddesses in the world. There were gods and goddesses. There was duality, night and day, dry and wet, god and goddess. So I looked for what kind of world was that. So I searched. The last goddess alive that walked the earth was named Cleopatra. She was under scrutiny by the Roman family. Something about her and her country the Romans wanted. So me and my son one day said, where does cotton come from? We don't see any growing in the backyard in the woods like muscadines. So we looked it up, and it said cotton is originally still growing wild in South America and Egypt. I said, well, don't the best cotton come from Egypt? Well, look at there. Now I see why they was after Cleopatra. She was the real Liz Claiborne, the real Gloria Vanderbilt, the real Tommy Hilfiger. She dressed the whole world. At that era, Egyptian was the best dressed people on the planet. Am I right?
You're right.
Some of the most, eloquent cottons.
Cosmetology.
We're not talking about silk from the worm. We're talking about cotton. And if you look up wild cotton, it looks so fluffy. It's not like that stuff Harry Tubman them picked that make your hand turn into gorilla hands. This stuff was very fluffy, almost like fine silk. That's what make Egyptian cotton so nice. And then now, who was wearing cotton? Roman soldiers wearing their little skirts. Throw the little stuff over you and all of that, right? Well, Cleopatra was dressing everybody. So if I can take over Egypt, I could rule the world. So Cleopatra was the last goddess. And I kept looking, and women was running the world for 4,700 years before Jesus was born, called goddesses. So that's as far as I've gotten. 4,000 some years ago, sisters was ruling the planet. There was no jails. There was no old folks' homes. There was no orphanages. Nobody threw kids away. Nobody threw grandpa, grandma away. And nobody broke any laws to go to jail. Now, I was at a client's house, and he said he discovered a book where he said, hey, man, you know, brothers ran the world for 800 years, from 711 A.D. to 1500s. And he pulled up the book, and it said the Moorish Treaty or something like that. Moors ruled the world or something.
North Africa. Northern Africa.
And so it dawned on me that, hey, okay, yeah, the Moors, but these are Moors males, right? So we have brothers, Moors who, with the sword, right?
Right.
Killing and pillaging, right?
Right. In
Okay.
the desert.
So a sister said, Dr. Loyer, when have you seen a sister that would send her babies to kill other women babies? I said, I never seen a sister do something like that. I've seen generals do that. Pack up thousands of males to go kill other males, women and children. But I haven't seen any sisters to do anything like that. So it dawned on me then that the toxic male is running the world without sisters and without the presence of the female femininity, the feminine principle. We are off balanced. And so when you were asking me, how do we fix it? I think the only way to fix it for me would be for me to accept I can't fix anything unless I restore the balance. So today I need a sister. Matter of fact, I might need her to be in charge. And I step back. Because males are known to be scientists and wizards. They create things from the dust of the earth, meaning males create tools. You understand? We create all kind of tools. All kind of tools. We make tools all the time, all day long. We make tools. Tables, chairs. Women can build with no tools. That's me. I was built with no tools. Dr. Badu, his mother built him with no tools. Your mother built you with no tools. That's a miracle. So at some point, I became to despise sisters for their ability to build miraculously with no tools. When I have to scorn the earth to make a toothpick. And I believe that's what started the gender war.
Say it in a different way. Say it another way.
Males hate sisters. They are raised to hate sisters. Sisters are only good for one thing in this culture, and that's to be on her back. And that's how we treat it. And our community and our culture is a reflect of that. You can judge a culture by how they treat their sisters. This culture just allowed women to vote. If you look at the timeline, it's just been a little bit of time ago.
Sexism. I had to make sure I was right before I spoke on that. And that's worse than racism in its own way.
It is the beginning of all isms. When you remove the sister, the goddess would be the creator, see.
The beauty of the world.
Yeah, we might be going a little too deep in the rabbit hole. So when you put males in charge of everything, what you do is you begin to write his story. And then you remove her story. So we have no her stories, no her story. We have no her story. We have only his story. So that's a lopsided story. It's like you hear dad's story all the time, but mom never gets to say her story. If mom speak, dad say shut up. Dad confine her to the dungeon. Dad locks her up in a chastity belt. Dad claims she can't be a minister or
A doctor.
part of the governmental power of heaven. All the angels are males. All the significant people in Christianity and Catholicism, Buddhism, even in Asia, all sisters take a back seat everywhere. They're on the bottom of the totem pole. But we all come from sisters. And as we grow up as males, we love mom, but then we grow up and despise the sister we're with.
Well, we pick up where our fathers left off at. And we use the term manhood. You know, man of the house. You know.
Beast of the house. Animal of the house. We're living as animals. So, unfortunately, I think I'm just beginning to be a human being because I've understood that I've grown up under the illusion that I was the king of everything. In truth, I'm really just the son of the goddess. I'm looking for the goddess to come back.
It's so interesting that you two say this, and that's why I love being in the same room speaking with you two. Like the way you guys think is brilliant, and there's so many different ways to approach what you guys said. But I feel like it was a quote the other day, and I read it, and I believe it was one of the Dalai Lamas, and they said, "The only true religion is the religion of being a kind person." And I feel as though a lot of the times that now that you said it, I feel like being kind and being more gentle, being more passive, I feel all those things are something that you would put in the attribute pool of a woman. And for you to say that a lot of the times we do this with women, the sexism that's in place, I feel as though that shows that today's typical man is out of balance. Even with your yin and your yang, those are masculine and feminine energies. That's lightness and darkness.
Right.
And this conversation here shows that we are out of balance. How many men do we know today who don't? Let's take it as simple as I can get. Let's not even make it philosophical. Let's not make it complex. How many men today do we know who can't talk about their feelings?
When I grew up on the corner committee, that's the committee where brothers meet on the corner, and we slap five and say, "What's up?" I never got involved in a conversation with brothers where each one shared, the older brother on the corner, would talk to the younger brothers how to love women and children. Never had that conversation.
How many people do we know today don't know how to express themselves or communicate emotionally? And that's why a lot of relationships fail.
It's that fear of losing manhood.
But why? That's pride. That's ego.
Well, we claim we do it in private.
Yeah, we claim we do it in private, but why is society's norm? Why is normality to be this figure of toughness, this macho? Being macho gets you nowhere. You can be the toughest man in the world. A blade still cuts you. A bullet still pierces you. Why are we so focused on this keeping up with the Joneses and these images when we can simply be concerned about what we deal with internally? Why can we not feel, and why is it not cool to be in balance? Why is it not cool to express yourself? Everyone has to be in balance. Without balance, there's war. Without balance, there is no peace. And I feel as though that's something that we can implement in today's society. Kindness and being charitable. You know, whether you want to look at it, and not only that, manifestation. We don't take into account that every day the things that we speak on, the things that we think of,
Throw into the universe.
and the things that we do get thrown into the universe. And that in itself creates what we deal with, creates our attitudes, is prevalent in our actions. And I feel like, okay, if I want to manifest more positivity, being charitable and being kind is one of those ways I can do that. So let's look at it in a religious sense, because a lot of people always separate sciences. Philosophy is a science. Do we agree with that?
We agree.
Okay. So with that being said, let's look at most religious doctrine, and this being, Miss Deborah Curry's show, Pastor Deborah Curry. You look at things and they're right in front of you. We read our Bibles, but do we dissect them? And I look at Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plan to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future." What is that? What type of thought is that? That's
A reward in the future.
positivity, manifesting positivity, kindness from God. You claim yourself a Christian, that you want to follow in the footsteps of Christ. This is something that you should be keeping in your mind. You look at Mark 11:23. Now think of what manifestation is. Manifestation is taking thoughts and trying to bring them into fruition, trying to bring them into creation. Right. Mark 11:23. "I say unto you that whoever shall say unto the mountain, Be thou removed, and thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that these things that he has received shall come to pass." That sounds exactly like manifestation to me.
The future.
That sounds like saying something, believing it shall happen, whether you want to believe that is through the powers of the Lord, or whether you want to believe that is the energy of the universe.
Whatever title you give it.
Whatever title you give it, there's one thing that we can universally agree on. Acts of kindness, positivity, speaking these things, saying these things, doing these things will create these positive things.
They were birthed.
Absolutely. You're only as big as the things you do. You can say it all day, but with actions comes the fruition of these words, the creation of these words. And I feel like that's another thing with just listen to what you guys were saying. That's another thing that we need to make the normal. We need to make that the norm. That's something that could change the difference in our toxic masculinity, and as well as definitely, that was a brilliant concept, once again, that I didn't even think of balance. Bringing women into the point of power, whether it's not I tell you what to do, we communicate about it. That's something that you need to do to live everyday life. That's something that you need to do with your family. That's something that you need to do in your relationship.
Period.
And what people have to realize is that everything is a relationship. This is a relationship. Everything you deal with, whether it be with your friends, family, your partner, best friend, everything is a relationship. And I feel like these are things that we can implement to change this toxic masculinity, because as you said, we're out of balance.
So it need to be watered down. It need to come into balance. The first 5 years of my life, I had only sisters. And my mother was like pretty hard on me, you know, because they was my everything. She made them my everything. I had to be their protector. She always say treat every female like a queen. And one day you'll grow up. And when you grow up, then you have your queen, your personal queen. But you treat every female like a queen. Treat them like a queen. And then when you decide to get married or whatever, that will be your private queen. You put a ring on her finger, you do private things. But you treat every woman, every female, as a queen. You know, even with my sisters, you know, I was rough with them, play football with them, they cry, tell on me, you know, I get my little whippings and everything. You know, but nobody else could treat them the way that I treated them. And my mom made that real. She made that exist in me. And I understood that you had to have both principles in life, male and female. And as I grew up, I started to understand that you have to have, because the man is just all the muscles. You know, they'll raise their hand and they threaten you and all of that. But you still got to have the innocent. You still got to have the softness. And that's where the female principle come in. You have to have both principles. And I write. I do a lot of writing. And I remember when I first started writing, they were like, that's all male. That's a lot of muscles. That's a lot of, that's strong. That's real strong. You know, a lot of people won't be able to read that. So I had to start discussing certain things with females and having a talk with my sisters and ask them for their opinion. So I had to add the female principle in there. And I always have to start out with, hey, beautiful, good morning, beautiful, greeting, beautiful. You know, I couldn't leave them out. I had to put them there first. I had to understand, too, that dealing with a female, for me, myself, I have to deal with the present tense. If she come to me with something, I have to respect that, regardless of how I feel inside. If she asks me for something, I have to respect that, regardless of how I feel inside. And if she tell me this is what I want or this is what I don't want, I have to respect that. You know, I have to understand that we all need time sometimes. We all need space sometimes. We all need distance sometimes, just to get to know ourselves, just to find ourselves. Regardless of how I feel on the inside, I have to be balanced enough to understand that that's a human being. A lot of times people don't know how to explain things to you or how to tell you things, but they know they need to be to themselves sometimes. So I respect that. And I respect that female principle because I know in due time, you know, my mom say, if you walk away in peace, you can come back together in peace. I was in a fight one time and I was, didn't want to run. You know, I want to be a man, didn't want to run. And my mother said, I'd rather come to the site and they say, there he go, then there he lay. And it took a while for me to understand that. But you never really have to prove anything, because once you start proving something, you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to prove something. I am who I am. I know who I am. That I understand. And I also understand that growing up, I saw a lot of things, you know. You get to see the fast, the slow, and the in-between. And you get to make decisions about your life, you know. A lot of things I didn't understand, but I start talking to myself. I say, I don't know what I want to do or what I want to be, but I start saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. Even in a relationship, I might not know what to do or how to treat a female, but I know how not to treat a female. And I know how to respect the female space and give them their space, regardless. Regardless. And we was talking about masculinity, that you my woman, you do this, you do that. You know, I'm the man. Even with your children, I'm your daddy. How dare you, you know. You do this, you do that. Like you said, the children don't have a voice.
The law in America, the male owns the woman and the children, their property. That law hadn't changed yet. There's a Roman law which if you have a wife and the neighbor comes over and impregnate her, the baby is yours. It doesn't belong to the father who impregnated her. That law still on the books. So we operate off some old Roman laws. And then once slavery started, we had to bring in some new laws because your slave could damage my property, and that's different than a cow broke over the fence or a hog got out. The African was not quite all animal, but he wasn't seen as all man, human either. So there had to be a new law.
Less than human.
To solve problems like that. So we got the penal codes and things. So that's working itself out in court now, where today they say we didn't train how to subdue Africans with the foot on the neck. The guy was using some modified technique.
Modified technique. Something.
It wasn't standard to police training how to apprehend someone and subdue them to get the cuffs on.
By me saying modified, because when you said, I had a flashback.
They use the word like in music, he ad-libbed, or you add a few more notes.
With the moment.
You add a few more notes that really wasn't on the music sheet, pretty much.
I'm still right there when you said modified. That takes me
there's
back.
a training to subdue a person similar to what we saw with Floyd, but he was not following training procedure.
Okay. During the civil rights movement, when you look at the films and you watch them over and over during Black History Month, you see the fire hoses, you see the dogs, you see the belly clubs, you see the police. It's like a riot. So they modified that.
Okay, listen. Toxic male. Two males made an agreement. Women ain't in the agreement. European woman wasn't in the agreement. She wouldn't have never agreed to her husband sleeping with African women and making mulatto babies looking like
we can leave it like that.
Me.
We can leave it like that.
Lower for law and a whole lot of.
Yeah, we can just leave it like
and
that.
then the African woman didn't agree to be brutally raped and just treated by both males and become a breeding machine and all of that. Sisters didn't agree to any of those things. Two toxic males set it up. They died, and people kept doing it on automatic. And then I was born, and people trained me to live it out. And I broke out of the mold. And we're here today talking about how to get free of it.
So
we got 4 more minutes.
It's back to that Willie Lynch. Are you familiar with Willie Lynch? Anybody here familiar with the Willie Lynch?
Absolutely.
So is it back to that?
No, it's further back to the goddess. Think about the goddess.
No, I'm not saying that part. I'm saying that it still lives on. Once it's entrenched in the mind, you don't have to do anything else.
No, we have to just stop talking about it. The guy said, what about Mr. Trump, Mr. Biden? He said, listen, I don't want to talk about Trump. He ain't in office. I like that. He said he didn't want to go back into talking about that. We done had enough of Trump. We done had enough of the toxic male. Let's talk about how to restore the goddess. And I would love to see more goddesses instead of artificial gluteal maximums.
You slid that in there, didn't you? Slid that in there.
Well, the toxic male has toxified the woman. where she no longer take a picture from the front, she takes pictures from the back.
And I remember when
You understand?
the photographer used to say, okay, fix your collar, fix your shirt, fix your blouse. All right, everybody smile and say cheese. Now all you see is the backside.
And so a kid got to grow up and see his mom posing that way, and that's never been part of my psyche as a kid. All my mom photographs was from the front, and all of the community moms were from the front. Now I watch the media, social media, most sisters posing, showing me the back with they looking to the front. I mean, it's really something's wrong. So, okay, so the toxic male has created enough crazy cultural anomalies, and so I think it's simply talking about the goddess. How do we get the goddess back on the job?
How does she exist?
We historically had lots and lots of goddesses. The world was fantastic.
Which is essentially saying you want to bring the world into balance.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Even give Jesus a girlfriend. Absolutely.
So if the world, the humans come into balance, nature will automatically come into balance. Because right now, nature is fighting for balance with the hurricanes, all the California fires, all of the mud storms.
They have a treaty not to, here we go with a treaty. They have a treaty not to hunt whales. But the Asian male and his toxicity goes out anyway and kills the whale.
For the oil. They need the whale oil.
Okay.
For perfume.
Which is made out of vomit. Whale vomit. Extract, fecurement. Yeah. People don't know that. Yeah, so.
Okay, so if you kill, okay. All right, so there's no more to say because the evidence is there without the ocean, and we keep making these plastic, where plastic hasn't been around the whole of my lifetime.
Well, it got famous in the 60s.
When I came along, milk was in a glass jar.
And not instant.
And so now plastic came along, things is just out of control.
Yeah. BPA. Chemical side effect of things being packaged in plastic. BPA.
Yeah. And
People
now it makes its way to the ocean, and every animal have particles of plastic in their system. And I didn't know that's why the whales was beaching themselves. This happened years and years ago now, right? 30, 40 years ago. And now they're admitting stomach was full of plastic.
Because the plastic is not biological degradable.
Thank you, Dr. Badu.
You're welcome, Dr. Lawyer.
So the toxic male wanted to make some cheese, thought of plastic, opened up Pandora's box, which made from petroleum, and here we go.
But all in all, it comes back down to balance, kindness, manifestation, and charity. Because I'm seeing that we're at 103 at the moment, so we go ahead and close this out. Don't want to keep Mr. Wade too long.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been fun. Again, it's been nice. It's been long. I enjoyed it. I mean, time went by too fast. And to the audience out there, we appreciate you guys looking in and checking in on us. And we'll have something for you next week. We think a lot of what we say, and we think a lot of what we give, and we really appreciate you guys. And thanks for viewing us. And Dr. Lawyer.
Thank everyone. I really appreciate being here and sharing what I can to create a new world for all of us to enjoy.
Brother Adolfo.
Just want to leave us with a few things. We always want to work better for tomorrow. But when tomorrow comes, instead of enjoying, we again think of a better tomorrow. We should always consider making today the best. Make sure that you're not chasing the wrong things in life, so you allow the right things to catch you, and be powerful enough not to dominate others, but to dominate yourself. Good night.
And one last thing I like to say: always let your next thought be as great as your last thought. That's evolution.
Find out more about our broadcast, Repair of the Breach, on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Thank you for tuning in.